don't give your power away to Ozempic and the other ones. Know that you can make your own GLP-1. How do you make your own GLP-1? For starters, the easiest way is when you put a plate together, a meal together. You want to make sure that you have some fiber, like a vegetable. You want to make sure you have some protein and you have some carbohydrates. But have you ever thought of the order in which you eat those? Research is showing that if you eat the fiber first and then the protein and then the carbohydrate, that order will increase GLP-1 production for that meal.
Well, hello there and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show that I think you're going to love. I am interviewing, she's a frequent flyer of the show, at least the second time she's been on, Dr. Mindy Pelz. She is a world-renowned women's health expert on a mission to empower women to believe in their bodies, which I love. Her high-profile clients include Leanne Rimes, Danica Patrick, popular influencer Jessica Itzler. She is a best-selling author of Fast Like a Girl, right? So that was the top-selling book of 2023. And now she has a new book out that we're talking about today, Eat Like a Girl. She really is just amazing. So interesting. We talked about everything from why it gets harder to lose weight as you age to what she thinks about Ozempic and the GLP-1 type things. And she gives us cracks the code on how we can release the GLP-1 in our own bodies. I really hope that you enjoy this interview with Dr. Mindy Pelz as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. I'm super excited to welcome back to the show. This is the second time, Mindy, you've been on the show before?
Yeah, second time.
Yes. Yep. I love it. Look at you, you frequent flyer. Dr. Mindy Pelz, back to the show. Hi.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. I think if, you and I were just at a restaurant having a conversation, this is probably what we'd be talking about. So it's very comfortable to be here. I'm excited to be here.
So true. So many things to talk about. I'm going to start with what most of my listeners and clients want to talk to me about, because now I have your undivided attention and I can talk to you about it. So
excellent.
Why are so many women struggling to lose weight? Can we just start there?
Oh, this is such a good question. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me sort of give you a snapshot of history. So we used to believe that weight loss was a calorie in, calorie out issue. So if you wanted to lose weight, you just would eat less and work out more. Then along came Jason Fung, who dropped a book called The Obesity Code. And he was the first one to say, hey, hello, everybody out there trying to lose weight. It's not a calorie in, calorie out issue. In fact, when you lower your calories and increase your output, you change what we call your set point, which is why you can never, ever stick to a diet or sustain the weight loss from that methodology. Losing weight is actually a hormonal issue, and the hormone you want to get in balance is insulin. And if you can balance insulin, then you're going to be able to lose weight. Then with Fast Like a Girl, I came along and said, yes, but for women, we need to make sure that we're looking at insulin through the lens of our sex hormones and honor that progesterone and estrogen have different needs. So we kind of carried that conversation forward for women. Now where we sit, the conversation's different. And there's been an add-on. And this is what Eat Like a Girl I'm really trying to emphasize, which is in the last 20 years, the amount of chemicals that have been poured into our food system are literally hijacking our stem cells. So in the book, I have a long list of what we call obesogens. And these obesogens will reprogram your stem cells. And they will tell the stem cells that were made to make bone. So this is important for women in osteoporosis and menopause. This is important for children, and can go into this statistic. But they tell that stem cell, instead of making bone, make fat. So now what you've got is a world of children, of all people of all ages, a world of children, world of menopausal women. Everybody's gaining weight And they're saying, I don't understand. I'm eating less and working out more. I'm dieting more. I'm fasting more. I'm doing all the more and more and more, and I can't lose weight. So weight loss has become an issue of detox. And we can dive into that even deeper and stopping these obesogens from coming into our body, because those chemicals have completely hijacked our cellular system, which is so sad.
And so scary. My God,
scary.
It's like terrifying. Yeah. Is there a most common? So of course, obviously, Fast Like a Girl, go get the book. And then there's a brand new book that's going to help you do this, which is part of why we're actually talking today, that you had a book that literally, you have a book that just dropped, Eat Like a Girl, 100 plus delicious recipes to balance hormones, boost energy, and burn fat, which who the hell doesn't need to do all of those things? We all do. So if you were to say the most common obesogen, what would you say?
Okay, there's two. There's two that one will blow your mind and one you're having every day. Pesticides. Pesticides are an obesogen. So when we used to say like, eating organic is for, woo-woo people. Eating organic is for people who don't want to gain weight now. So we need to make anything that's been sprayed with a pesticide. Okay, second obesogen. Are you ready? The one that we all think is helping us lose weight, which is aspartame, which is in NutraSweet and other sugar-free products. So we went fat-free and then we went sugar-free. And when we went sugar-free and fat-free, we started pouring these chemicals into our food. And all the diet foods, like the worst thing you could do to lose weight is eat the diet foods. They're just packed with chemicals.
Yes. Aspartame is also, I thought there was an understanding that it was like cancer causing as well. I don't know if that's true. But
these obesogens, many of them have multiple problems with them. But even I know there's a big movement right now to clean up cereal for children, because the artificial colors and sweeteners in those are obesogens. So they you're giving your kid Fruit Loops that has these colors still, or my nemesis, the Go-Gurt, where you would use that blue Go-Gurt and your kids would drink that. Plastics is another, BPA plastics, another obesogen. And our kids are eating these chemicals every single day. This is why childhood obesity is so high. And the frustrating part is it feels unfair, because we're going into the supermarket and the FDA is allowing these things to be in the supermarket. You would think they were protecting our safety, but they're not.
Now, Dr. Mindy, I think that this for me falls into the same category of our health. If you've ever had a health crisis, I had cancer in my early 30s. I had 2 different kinds of thyroid cancer. And, I was young at the time, but what I took away from that experience was that the only person responsible for my health is me.
Bingo.
And who I partner with, great. I made lots of different choices after my not so great experience with having to have the same surgery twice within a 6-month period of, there was all this stuff that went down. But what I really learned was that it was on me to become educated. It was on me to make decisions. It was on me to partner with a doctor who gave a shit. Not ones who are thinking that they're God and that I'm a moron, which is what it felt like with some of them. And I think that what you're saying, and that we can use really both of the books, right? So you've got the recipe book to help us get there, but Fast Like a Girl as well, in giving us the education that we need around what is really happening.
It's interesting because as an author, you put your heart and soul into a book, but then you never really know until the book goes out into the world how it's going to be received, which is always makes launch week nice and nerve wracking.
Indeed.
But what happened with Fast Like a Girl blew my mind, because the principles I had already been teaching in my clinic, the principles I'd taught on YouTube, I knew they worked, but the amount of weight loss that started happening with people around the world and the stories that poured in. And I sat back and I was like, I think what we did with that book is we taught everybody how to take a break from these obesogens. Like, let's just take all this toxic food and let's eat it in a 6-hour eating window, leaving a longer period to rest. And that reset the metabolism and let them start to lose weight. What I'm hoping to do with Eat Like a Girl is show women how to eat now. How do you eat and avoid these obesogens? How do you eat so you can actually nourish your beautiful feminine body? So it was like it was like a drastic measure that was needed because we're not it's hard to overturn big food. There's too many profits in it now.
Yes. What's so interesting though about what you're saying is that the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the stories. The proof is in the evidence of what people are experiencing. And it's almost like when you write a book and you pray. I'm always, my prayer is always that will help someone lessen their suffering and elevate their own joy. Like there's always, it's always the same prayer that I have for anything that I'm doing and writing, but you don't know until it gets out there. And then it has a life of its own. And I think that's really what happened with Fast Like a Girl. And I think the same is going to be happening with Eat Like a Girl, because once it starts happening, there's no denying the reality. Right. And I agree with you. This is not, it's someone else's job to go up against big food. Yeah. What we care about is what can listeners do and readers do right now to stop taking actions unknowingly that are against their best interest. And that's the mind-blowing thing about what you're sharing, is that even those of us who are very well-versed and yes, doing our best to eat organic, and again, a privileged position without a doubt, right? To even be able to eat organic, because it is expensive and it's more expensive.
Yeah, like to eat, let's just stop on that for a moment. To not eat the chemicals is going to cost you more.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
It's sick. I mean, and part of why Vic and I have a huge garden, organic gardens, every year. And I say Vic and I say that super loosely because he does everything and I just benefit. But it's sort of amazing to be able to just eat blueberries, because we have a lot of blueberry bushes. And so, when it all gets ripe at the same time, it's painful and we're always trying to get people to come and pick, but we freeze them. And then we have them all winter to make smoothies and to just eat in oatmeal or whatever it is that you're eating. And I feel like I get the luxury that is though, right? Because I've also bought organic blueberries and a little tub is $5. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about, like there's like 20 blueberries in there. You're like, wow. So I think that there's also got to be other ways. So can we talk a little bit about why you think, because you've been doing this for decades, so many women struggle with healthy eating habits to begin with? Because I hear so much from people, they're doing nighttime eating. It feels like mindless eating. They're eating popcorn and shit they don't want to be eating, but it's almost like they can't stop.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a good question, because I think this is an intersection between your work and my work. What most women, what I have found, have a very dysfunctional relationship with food. And so I think for starters, we have to look at it like a relationship. And is that relationship serving you or is it not serving you? In the book, I put a whole section in about how food is a connector. So we can use food as a connector for good. For example, one of the things I've thought deeply about is we've become so in the health world, become so like zealots for, you got to have more protein, or you got to have carbs, or you have to eat this or not eat this. And that's creating so much chaos for women. But we don't really like stop and look at, what about the environment in which you're eating? Like when you sit down and you're eating with people you love, and there's a lot of oxytocin there, and you're like using food as a way of bringing everybody together, and there's a ton of love, that actual meal is going to be better received for your body because you're in a parasympathetic state. As opposed to if you are in your car eating as you're rushing to the next thing, or to pick your kids up from the soccer game and you're stressed out. So first is we have to see that the environment in which we eat matters. Second, we have to ask ourselves, and this is a tough one, and this is why I think fasting works so well for people, is, are we eating to change our state? And this is what I found happen with fasting so much, which was when people stopped eating, the agitation came up. and they were uncomfortable and they didn't have their tool set to be able to eat. So what were they going to do? And so, in the book, I have a whole list of, hey, have you thought about all these state changers? There's lots of ways to change your state other than food. And then the last one that I really point out to women a lot is that these toxic foods have hijacked your taste buds. We live in a very dopamine rich world. We're looking for that dopamine now all the time. And because of the chemicals that are sprayed on these foods, they stimulate the dopamine centers of your brain that, dopamine is the molecule of more, not the molecule of enough. So it keeps you coming back. So now all of a sudden the apple doesn't give you the same high as the potato chip. Yeah. So it's multifactorial. And then you can throw social media in there. And we've got people putting filters on. And, we have, I think for women, I'd be really curious your opinion on this. Like, I think we're taught constantly over and over and over again, we're not enough. We're not worthy. So we have to start to find, and our culture says you are only worthy when you look a certain size and you're beautiful. Now you're worthy. So we put all those things together, and this is why women are struggling.
Yeah, I totally agree with the social pressure. And it's funny, I've been talking quite a lot about menopause and about aging and because I turned 60 in March of this year.
Congrats, you look so beautiful.
Well, thanks.
I hope you feel beautiful.
But I do. I do. And I'm healthy, and I really prioritize my wellness, Yeah. But I also had about 5 years of really deciding how I was going to do it. Like, I had thoughts. I was like, am I going to chase youth?
Yes. Ooh, this is so
good. And the
good.
answer is no.
Nope.
I'm
neither.
not. Because I have wisdom.
Yeah.
Because I'm not ashamed.
So check this out. I've been asking people over and over and over again, what does wisdom look like? What does wisdom look like? Not does it act like, not do you feel in the presence of wisdom, but what does wisdom look like? And I think in our American culture, we have a lack of respect for our elders. And so because of that, so many women are scared of aging because they don't want to be tossed aside by the culture. Yet, if you really want to learn something and have a deeper understanding about any topic, talk to a menopausal woman, a post-menopausal woman. Because if you look at our brain changes, we actually have parts of our brain, the neurons that have been people-pleasing parts get pruned away, and the neurons that can see more of a societal lens kick in and grow bigger. And the amygdala that sees fight or flight and is constantly stressed out actually turns towards empathy. So if you want to have an amazing conversation, find yourself a postmenopausal woman and have that conversation. But the culture doesn't want the wrinkle. The culture doesn't want to be tossed aside. It doesn't honor the wisdom that women have as they age. So I love, love, love what you said. I'm the same boat. I'm like, watch me age naturally. Bring it on. I'm all in for it.
Yep. This is what it looks like. I also think that there's a part of me that I'm like, I will not be put in a box by anybody for any reason. No one has the power. Society doesn't have the power to discard me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's that. This is some patriarchal bullshit that says that my ass should look the same as it did when I was 28. Well, it doesn't, and it still looks great. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it.
So I don't know if we talked about this when you came on my podcast recently, but I've been really thinking about this patriarchal lens in which we all are sort of living life. And people get frustrated when you say the patriarch because they think it means men and men versus women. So I found a definition I really like, and patriarch means power over, and matriarch means power within. So I believe as we age, we need to really, and we could do it even earlier, but especially aging women where the patriarch says you have to stay looking sexy. and you have to stay looking good to stay worthy. Well, you're not ovulating. You're not reproducing anymore. So, in reality, that's a near impossible challenge because your body is not meant to be attractive per se to another human. I'm not saying don't be attractive. I'm just saying we're based off biology. You have changed. So how about we find that power within? How about we all go within and find our power, which is what I just heard in your statement.
Yep. And again, it's being, and so much of my work, of course, is about being self-determined.
Yeah.
So much of it is about curing the disease to please.
Yeah.
And really grasping that pleasing ourselves is when we will do the most good for society, when we take care of ourselves, when we prioritize our own preferences, desires, limits, and deal breakers.
Yep.
And that means more bandwidth to do the things that we're great at doing. Because, part of this whole thing of curing ourselves from high functioning codependency that we were talking about on your show is that it's all of this bandwidth that gets sucked up in these subplots of our life that are not our life, that are not our side of the street, that are not for us to do. And we do have finite energy. It isn't endless energy. And that bandwidth could be much better used. To further whatever cause we're in for ourselves, whatever it is,
Think of all the energy, we would get back.
Oh, so much. So much. Let's talk a little bit, the questions, because I had asked my audience before I told them you were going to be on, and asked, what is it that you want to know? And people, I had mothers who just had kids, then I had people in perimenopause, and then people in menopause. And basically the questions were, do you need to eat differently at different sort of hormonal stages or phases of your life, right? That could be pregnancy. It could be your breastfeeding. It could be menopause. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, and the answer is absolutely. And let's sort of walk through, different ways to look at this. Let's start with puberty. When and what's interesting, by the way, that I just want to point this out. When I wrote Fast Like a Girl, all the mama bears came to me and said, how do I get this to my 20-year-old? How do I get to my 25-year-old? So with Eat Like a Girl, my lens was, how do we get to this younger generation?
Yeah.
And because they don't have a cycle, like they're all losing their cycle because of the toxins that are in our environment. So, one of the things to know is that estrogen and progesterone, I always say that they're like twin sisters. They look alike. We call them the same name. They're both sex hormones, but they have vastly different personalities. Progesterone wants glucose to be higher. So you need to bring glucose up. So a low carb diet or a calorie restriction diet is going to tank progesterone. This is why I believe so many women don't have a cycle. These 20-year-olds that don't have a cycle is because they're on these low calorie diets where they're not bringing enough nutrients in, enough glucose in, or they went on a low carb diet. Progesterone doesn't like cortisol to be high either. So when they're stressed out, now that progesterone comes in the week before our period. So we need to be eating more of nature's carbs. We need to be relaxing more. Okay, estrogen. Estrogen likes us to be insulin sensitive. So this is where the ketogenic diet does well. This is where low carb living and fasting does really well. Comes in the front half of our cycle. So when we look at what society's been teaching right now, it's been like, everybody should do low carb diets. And then that happened. And then all the women were like, my hair is falling out and I've lost my cycle. And now we've gone the other way. No women should do low carb diets and nobody's losing weight. So we should be doing both. And if you're a cycling woman, you got to know what part of the cycle to do it in. Now, for my pregnant and postpartum women, the absolute best thing you can focus on is your microbiome. So foods that feed your microbiome, polyphenol, probiotic, prebiotic foods, because you will pass your microbiome down to your child. And every time you are touching them, if you are nursing, good bacteria go through your breast milk. Within the first 3 years, your baby is learning to build the microbes, and your microbes, you are handing your microbes down. So more fruits and vegetables, basically, more of the fruits and vegetables. Then for my perimenopausal and menopausal women, what's happening there is you're becoming less glucose sensitive. So your brain specifically becomes less, it uses glucose less efficiently. This is memory loss. This is brain fog. And it needs more ketones. So it can function higher on ketones. So any woman after 40 needs to know how to do some low carb, or the way I teach ketones is you need to learn how to look at every day as an eating window and a fasting window, and use your fasting window to start to get some of these ketones to give you the fuel source that you need to think properly. So 3 different massive times of life, 3 different approaches.
Yes. So for postmenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal women, so what do you think is the optimal window?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say if a postmenopausal woman doesn't have a cycle, I would lean into you should definitely be doing 13 to 15 hours of fasting most days, giving yourself, a 9-10 hour eating window, maybe 11-hour eating window. Most can do that. My favorite study ever done on women on fasting was done on 13 hours. And it was done on breast cancer survivors, that they found if women came out of traditional breast cancer treatment, they had a 64% less reoccurrence of breast cancer if all they did is fast 13 hours every single day.
Wow.
So,
that's
and
amazing.
then you're going to get those, if you can go 15 hours, now you're going to get some of those ketones that are going to sharpen your brain. Some women like to go 17 hours because they can keep those ketones a little longer. So, but what I want my postmenopausal women to know is the brain fog is not like a curse that is happening to you. Your brain is literally in its process of changing the fuel source it prefers. It's going to prefer a ketone over a blood sugar glucose molecule.
It's so amazing that you can know this, and that we can know this just by buying your books and reading them, that this is available. I so appreciate your ability to take this, it's heady and dense stuff, but the way that you write about it and the way that you talk about it, there's an accessibility that really makes it valuable to the layperson, because most doctors are not taking the time to help us understand what can we do for ourselves, which is basically all of your work is also so self-determining and so self-empowering. So I had a lot of questions when I said you were going to be on about Ozempic and what do they call GLP-1?
The GLP-1, yeah. Oh, this is good.
Tell me everything. What are your thoughts?
I know. I love having this conversation because I want to give everybody a bigger lens to look at. The first thing is, we have an obesity problem because of the chemicals that were poured into our food system. And how convenient that big food and big pharma paired up. And big pharma was like, I have a solution to this. So the first thing is, don't fool yourself into thinking that this wasn't a major profiting center for both of these industries. So there's that. Okay. Take that aside. You make GLP-1. This is the first thing I want people to know. You make it. So if you can't afford $800 to $1,000 for the shot, learn how to make it, because it is made in your microbiome. And interesting enough, what destroys your microbiome's ability to make the GLP-1 hormone that kills hunger is fat, bad fat. Canola oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil, partially hydrogenated soybean, vegetable oils. I put a ton of lists in the book. So isn't that interesting that we've been pouring these harmful oils into our food system, killing the microbes that make GLP-1 and causing, hijacking our cells that are now making fat cells. So we are hungrier than ever, gaining weight more than ever because of the food system. So the first thing is, if you don't want to spend $800 to $1,000 on this, is get the chemicals out of your diet and make sure you're eating all the good fat. And I put lists upon lists in my book, so you can find all that. And don't give your power away to Ozempic and the other ones. Know that you can make your own GLP-1. Okay. How do you make your own GLP-1? We just did a big thing on this in my community because I'm so excited about this. So for starters, the easiest way is when you put a plate together, a meal together, you want to make sure that you have some fiber, like a vegetable. You want to make sure you have some protein and you have some carbohydrates. But have you ever thought of the order in which you eat those? Research is showing that if you eat the fiber first and then the protein and then the carbohydrate, that order will increase GLP-1 production for that meal. So let's use a meal I eat all the time in my family. We eat a salad, we eat a sweet potato because that's really good for hormones. And we usually eat some kind of meat like grass-fed beef or chicken or something. So technically, if I wanted to increase GLP-1, then what I would do is I would eat the salad first, then I would eat the steak, and then I would have the potato. But how many of us are eating in that order? So that's the first thing that I want to say is you can make your own. Okay. Now let's say you're on it and you're like, but I lost a ton of weight. And I do feel like, for some people, this has been life-saving. We can't dismiss that. This has been life-saving. People who had real metabolic problems may have died if they didn't have access to this, and they're losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
We have to still acknowledge that you're losing muscle. And muscle is really important for aging. It's really important for, insulin resistance because muscle has insulin receptor sites in it. So if you are on them and you got a result, you want to get off of those as quickly as you can so that you don't completely break down all your muscle because you need that for aging. I think the fasting lifestyle that I taught in Fast Like a Girl is the trick to do that, because most everybody who starts to look at their day as I have an eating window and a fasting window, the number one symptom I hear is my hunger goes away. So what I'm hoping is that people will get tired of spending the money. People will get scared of breaking the muscle down, and they'll start to see they have more power and that they can do this on their own if they understand the principles of GLP-1. So that's my general statement as we sit today.
But, that's literally, and all of this is the first time I've heard that your body makes GLP-1, literally. And I've read quite a bit about Ozempic and just, just in just anywhere you're reading it. It's been around the past 2 years for sure. Yeah. But I've never once read that you could make it in your own body.
Your microbes make it. And this is a spot where they just love to disempower us. They love to make, like when I was on Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett asked me this question. And prior to that, he had read a beautiful story of a woman who had lost like 50 pounds reading Fast Like a Girl. And her takeaway is that she could do hard things. When you inject yourself and you lose weight, there's no empowerment in that. It's like our healthcare system is all about taking our own internal power away. And I'm here to give everybody their power back and just say, if you understood your body, you would never fear it. You would fall in love with it.
Love. All right. I have a question for you as I wrap, is personally, because a lot has changed. I might have asked you this the last time, but I'm going to ask you again. Yeah. What has been your most challenging boundary struggle and how have you overcome it if you have?
Oh, you're just going to go right in, huh?
I'm going in.
So my biggest boundary struggle is that I'm a people pleaser. I'm a fixer. I got into my profession to help people, and I often do it at the expense of helping myself. And I'll give you I think you and I talked about this when you came on my podcast. I had a friend who recently said something to me that really she might as well have slapped me across the face. She said, you know what's so interesting, Mindy, about you is that you are so scared to disappoint the people you love, yet you have no problem disappointing yourself. Now that's a good friend. And when she said that to me, I was like, whoa. And I'm going to be 55 next week. I'm like, how did I get to 55 without having that realization? So I'm in a process of pleasing myself first. That is that. And I think probably a lot of women are learning that as well.
Indeed. That's so beautiful. And it'll be mind blowing for you to see how your relationships change for the better. Even good relationships become great relationships when you start taking care of yourself first, because we're now not burdening other people with our self-sacrifice, because it really does eventually become that to them. You know what I mean? So that's amazing. All right, you guys, the book is Eat Like a Girl, 100 plus delicious recipes to balance hormones, boost energy, and burn fat. You do not want to miss this from Dr. Mindy Pelz. Mindy, where else can people find you?
YouTube is my passion project. I do 4 new YouTube videos on this topic every week. So go to YouTube, or you can go to drmindypelz.com. And I think we have eatlikeagirlcookbook.com has some bonuses and fun things you can do, just like I know you do. Just, it's all, to me, it's like, let's just have fun putting this book out, and let's empower women to take back their health. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I super appreciate you coming on the show and helping us. We really do need you. So thank you.
Thank you.